Guys, we're going to go through some slides. I'm just going to kind of talk with you, what's really worked for us. To kind of give you an idea, I've been in the business for 8 years. Last year, I closed 24 buyers. And on average, I only show a buyer 10 homes before we get them closed. Okay? So we're going to go over a lot of information today. We're going to save the questions for the end. If that works for everyone?
No.
All right. So part of our process, when someone calls and says, Andrew, hey, we want to buy a house. The first thing that is the step to our process is scheduling the appointment. And so before doing anything else, you want to schedule that appointment. You can call it a buyer's consultation. You can call it a strategy meeting, whatever the case may be. My recommendation for everyone is to meet at the office. Okay. Set the standard. For some people, they'll say, oh, can you meet us at Starbucks or can you meet us somewhere else? No, we're going to meet at our office because we're going to be able to use our resources here and be able to better serve you. Same thing, if you had to go to the doctors today, are you going to tell them to meet you at Starbucks? You're not. And so you want to set the standard that you are running a business and you are professional, and therefore that's why we meet at the office. Okay. We do have a packet that we put together. You can put whatever you want in your packet. Kayla and Lexi at the front desk sells these for $1. We don't have it branded, we just use the Keller Williams packet. In our packet we have many different things which we'll go over shortly. We do have them sign in, and the reason why we have them do a sign-in sheet is because we want to get them in the habit as soon as they come into the office that they're filling out paperwork, right? This is also your opportunity to gather info about them. For us, on our sign-in sheet, this is what our sign-in sheet looks like. So I want to know their name, phone number, email, where they currently live, what is their preferred method of contact. Some people don't like to talk on the phone, some people want you to text them. You really want to know how they like to be communicated to, so we ask that on the front end. And I want to know if they're referred by anybody. 2 reasons. I want to know A, who's sending us referrals, and B, it lets me know who we need to be sending a thank you to. And then I ask them a few questions. Why are they meeting with us? Are they here to buy a home, sell a house, buy a home and sell a house, or invest in real estate? I want to understand what their goals are. I put in there a statistic that the average realtor only handles 14 transactions per year. And I want them to understand that working with us, we helped over 30 homes or 30 families just last year alone. So what does that tell the buyer? It tells them that they're working with someone experienced. If you're a newer agent and you don't have quite those numbers yet, one of the things you can highlight is you're part of the #1 market center. We sold X amount of homes last year. You get to use those numbers. So if you don't personally have numbers yet that show that you exceed 14 transactions, use the weight of the market center to help offset that. And then we ask them, when is their best time of viewing? Just so I can kind of gauge what does their schedule look like. Are they a weekday person? Are they a weekend? Or they want to go mornings or nights, right? And then we have a list of questions. What is important to you about a buyer's agent? In here, oftentimes I have people that come in and they checkbox everything because yes, everything is important. And also, you're going to have the ones that only checkbox certain things. That's a cue to be specific on how do I give them that good level of customer service? What particularly sticks out to them that's important to them, and ensure that you're meeting those needs, right? And then at the end, I just tell them that you are aware that my buyer partner can provide me with immediate updates about new homes and changes in the market. And that's obviously an obvious thing, right? That's what they're expecting of you. The reason why we put that in there is because we want them to consciously realize that's part of our role in the process and what we're doing for them, okay? So then we do the ABC buyer, which is this. It's a long paragraph explaining what type of buyer they are. Are they an A, B, or C buyer? A means they need to buy immediately. B means if they find the right house, they're ready to buy today. C means this one is the one that's just kind of waiting along, and if they find something great or a deal, they'll buy it. I want them to categorize themselves. Are they A, B, or C? The reason why I do that is because I want them to consciously realize how motivated are they, and how do they expect communication to be from me. For example, if you're a C buyer, I'm not calling you every single day, right? I have A buyers that need to be in a home, and therefore they are of higher priority. Not to say that they aren't priority. There's just a difference of priority. And I tell them at the consultation, hey, this can change at any given time. You may be a C buyer today, and tomorrow you wake up and you say, Andrew, I need to be in a house today. Awesome. Now you're an A buyer. So I'm setting the expectation that, first off, depending on what priority you are, that's how you'll be prioritized when we're working with clients. Second off, it helps them realize, what kind of buyer am I? Am I truly motivated? Am I ready to buy a house today? Right? And so we'll often get objections on, why do we have to meet at the office? Why do we even have to do a buyer's appointment? Can't you just show me this one house, right? And it goes back to, you really have to show the benefits and value of it. You'll often hear agents say buyers are liars. And honestly, that's not the truth. The reality is you're not asking them enough questions to better understand what's important to them and what matters to them. And so by understanding them, you can provide what are the benefits of value of meeting here. What I often tell clients is there's a lot of information and there's a lot of things that are happening in the market today. What I would like to do is educate you, because the most educated buyers in the marketplace get the best deals. You're going to have that clarity. You're going to have the understanding of, what do I expect from a financing perspective? What do I have to financially prepare for? What is happening in the market and how does it affect me? And what do we do as your buyer's partner? So our goal is to determine during the strategy meeting if A, you're going to hire me to represent you in your interests, if it makes sense for you to buy a home, and B, I'm going to determine if I'm going to take you on as a client. And people often ask, well, why wouldn't you take me on as a client? And my response is we only work with a handful of buyers at a given time, and to deliver that best service, we want to make sure that we're working with people that are a match, right? And that kind of puts pressure on the buyer as well to understand that, hey, we have standards. And if you aren't a part of that standard, understand that we may not work with you. Next thing is I tell them, coming to the office, we get access to all our resources. And that could be as simple as having the computer, the printer, all the paperwork that we may need, right? And then the last thing is we're setting that standard. This is a professional environment. You're coming to our office, same as you'd come to the doctor's office. And this is our opportunity to set that standard of being professional. So how do we win buyers through value and expectations? Starting off the process, the first thing I'm doing when I'm sitting down and meeting with them is going over the FORD process. FORD is just an acronym for family, occupation, recreation, dreams, and decision makers. Okay? So I want to ask them a little bit about their family. How many is in your family that's going to be living in the home? What is your occupation? Where do you work at? Where do you spend a lot of your free time? What do you do for recreation? What are your dreams with this home? Do you see yourself living in this home for 2 to 5 years, 5 to 10, 10 plus? What's your overall goal with that? And then the last one is decision makers. I'm not sure if anyone in here has had a buyer. I've had plenty in the beginning when I didn't ask the question, where I would show a buyer a house and they'd say, I'm ready to write an offer, and my mom just has to come see the house. Right? So at the consultation, I'm asking them on the front end, is there anyone that's important to you that's going to help you make your final decision on this home? And by asking that question, it opens up insight on who really needs to be there. And what I tell them is great, if your mom's a part of that process, we want to make certain that your mom's present when we go view homes so that we don't miss out on any opportunities. Because realistically in this market, you get 2 options. You either get to sleep in the house or you get to sleep on it. You don't get both, okay? And so we want to make sure we know who the decision makers are that's a part of the process. If it's a husband and wife, we want to make sure both people are here. And if they say, hey, I'm available, but my husband isn't, and say, it's very important, we're going to be going over a lot of information, and to ensure that everyone's on the same page, and that we're going to have the best experience, let's make sure we schedule a time that everyone can be there. Okay? Oftentimes what happens is in my experience, when I have the wife come in or the husband come in and the significant other isn't there, they typically don't sign, and I typically don't get them in as a buyer. However, if I have them both there, my odds are greater to get them to sign with me. So then we'll go over the difference between a salesperson and a consultant. How I explain it is a salesperson is just like it sounds. They're there to sell anything and everything. As a consultant, I'm here to give you advice, guide you through the process, and help you get to your goals. Which would you rather work with? 100% of them are going to say a consultant. Nobody wants to be sold anything and everything, right? And I'm distinguishing that for them so that they know, first off, I'm on their side, and second off, they know that I'm different from other agents, right? We'll then talk about financing and getting pre-approved. This should be your number one rule as a buyer's agent or working with buyers. Do not put them in the car until they're pre-approved. I'm going to tell you, you're going to save a lot of time and you're going to save a lot of hassle. The reason why we tell them, and buyers will say, oh, well, I qualify, I'm good for the money. That's great. And we want to get clarity around the numbers, because isn't it important to you to understand what does it cost you to get the loan? What does it cost you every month to live there? And what do you ultimately pay for the house? We're getting you pre-approved so that we know those things, so that we have clarity, so that when we see the right house and it's in your price range, you know you can buy it and you know you'd be comfortable with it, right? So we get them pre-approved first. I then talk to them about the breakdown. What does it look like from a monthly payment perspective? Are you comfortable with that? Are you comfortable with the down payment that is required for you to get this loan, right? So getting clarity around the numbers really helps you, A, save you time, and B, efficiently work with the buyer to get them to their goals. So for the buyers that push back, I always tell them, there's additional benefits to not only understanding what you qualify for, it's also understanding that monthly payment. The last thing that's really critical is this is going to create leverage for you as a buyer when you're negotiating. And I give them a scenario. I say to them, imagine you're selling your car today and you're selling it for $20,000. And I came along and I offered you $20,000 and I showed you a letter that said, Andrew can buy this house based from my bank, right? And then another buyer comes along and says, you know what, I'll give you $21,000, but I can't prove that I can buy it. Who are you going to pick? And the buyers always say, well, I'm going to pick the person that can show the money. And I say, exactly. And that's exactly how sellers are going to look at your offers. And so imagine you have this pre-approval letter that we include with your offer, and when we submit it to the agent, and if it's a multiple offer situation and the other buyer doesn't have a pre-approval letter, who do you think they're more likely to choose? So that leverage doesn't cost you anything, and it gives you a leg up on buyers that aren't pre-approved. And that's the benefit of getting pre-approved prior to us starting the process. I share with them the services we provide. There's a lot of things that we do as realtors, and oftentimes we think they're small things. And at the end of the day, they're still part of the process, and I highly recommend mentioning everything you do for them. For us, it's market analysis, having you, showing you the homes, having clarity around their goals, setting up their needs analysis, going through the offer, presenting the offer, negotiating, going through inspection items. I mention all these things so that they have an expectation and they have an understanding of the value we bring when they work with us, right? So you want to highlight all those things regardless of how small you think they are, because they are things that you're doing for your client. And so we share with them that we work with Keller Williams and that we are a group, and what that value means for them. And I tell people, I say, we work with Keller Williams Realty Peachtree Road. This is the #1 real estate office in the state of Georgia. And I'm sure at this point you're probably thinking to yourself, well, what does that matter to me? And why that matters is A, you're working with an office that is working at higher standards. And in addition to that, someone who's actively negotiating day in and day out. You do want someone to negotiate on your behalf, right? You do want the best, don't you? And so asking these questions and highlighting KW is how we're letting them know. I also let them know, hey, we have over 400 agents in this office. And why that benefits you is these are the people we get to rub elbows with to find out who has the next listing coming out that may be a fit for you. So we are proactively networking just by coming into the office every day, because there's an opportunity for other agents in the office to list the property that you're going to buy, right? And then we go over the commission. I say to them, hey, are you aware of how we get paid? And they're always uncertain, and I always tell them, well, exciting enough, this is actually every buyer's favorite part of the conversation. For you to hire us, represent you, protect your interests, and negotiate on your behalf, it doesn't cost you anything. the seller pays our commission at closing. Isn't that the best part about it? And every buyer's like, yes, I feel so much better. I'm so glad I don't have to pay you. We'll then talk about the different types of homes. I mentioned to them, these are the different types of homes you'll see in the marketplace. You're going to see short sales, you're going to see foreclosures, you're going to see auction homes, you're going to see new construction, and then you're going to see traditional sales. And I explain each one and what it means to them as a buyer. The reason why I explain each one is because not all of those homes are going to be a match for a buyer. And so, for example, an auction home. Most auctions are cash only, sold sight unseen. I explain that because if you don't tell the buyer on the front end, they're online and they see an auction home and they're like, why didn't my agent send me this? And then you're having to explain yourself at that point. By explaining on the front end, we do the consultation to go over everything from start to finish to minimize how many objections we have once we start the process. I'll then explain short sales, how that affects them, foreclosures, and we'll go through one by one to determine which one does or doesn't make sense for them. 9 times out of 10, they're marking out short sale and auctions. What that does for me is I know that anytime they see a short sale or an auction house, they're not sending it to me and asking about it because it doesn't match their goals, right? I'll also mention for sale by owner. I'll say to them, hey, you may be driving through an area, you see a sign in the yard, for sale by owner. Before you do anything else, call me, tell me the address and the phone number. For me to represent you and protect your interests, it's important that I'm your first point of contact. I'd like you to know that I'll never stand between you and your next home. However, for me to protect you, I do have to be your first point of contact. I tell them that so that they don't go to the for sale by owner just curious, just to check it out, and then they're going to report back to me, right? What often happens is when the buyer goes through without you, the seller's like, well, I don't want to pay your commission. You weren't even here for the first tour. So at that point, you just lost a buyer to a for sale by owner. That's happened to me before, right? New construction, I explain it. I say, hey, look, and you may see a new construction community. You want to check it out. You just want to see the model home to see if you even like the neighborhood. Same thing. Please call us first for us to represent you. And I say, what happens to buyers is most of the time they unknowingly go into a new construction community just to check out the model home. They walk in and the agent says to them, hey, if you'd like to check out the model home, please sign in here. And I say, and oftentimes if you read the fine print, it says, by signing this, I give up all rights of representation. Unfortunately, once you've signed it, I won't be able to represent you. So anytime you see a new construction community that you're interested in, please call me. And that's helped me protect the client as well as the commission that you're working so hard for with the buyer that you're working with, right? Because if they go in without you, 9 times out of 10, the builder's not going to pay your commission. So we want to make sure we're giving them that information so they know, because most buyers, it's not that they don't want to use you when they go into new construction, it's more so they just didn't know they couldn't walk in without you, right? I also explained to them, funny enough, oftentimes buyers think that by going into a new construction community that they're going to save money because they don't have a realtor. And I'd like to share with you that the listing agent's role in the process is to protect the seller and put the most amount of money in their pocket. What you hire us today for is to protect you and put the most amount of money in your pocket. And so think of it this way. Imagine you, a buyer, go into a new construction community and the listing agent, who now has to do twice the work, do you think they're going to want to share their commission with you? Or do you think they'd rather pay me to do all the work that it means for you to get to closing? And so by setting that mind frame for them, it takes away that objection that they can go to a new construction and get a better deal without an agent, right? And the next thing I do is I give them a copy of the purchase and sale agreement that just says sample on it. And I tell them, there's no pop quiz today, however, there is homework, okay? What you're gonna do is you're gonna go home, you're gonna read through the purchase and sale agreement, call me with any questions. The reason why we give this to you in advance is we want you to have clarity around what you're agreeing to, and as well as be efficient with your time. So that when we find the right house, instead of reading the offer, we're gonna be writing the offer, okay? That's gonna save you a lot more time when you're ready to write that offer. Typically when they're ready to write an offer, it's crunch time, it's probably 7 p.m., you're trying to eat dinner, and now they want to write an offer. So if you have to read through it, you're probably going to spend an extra hour or two just trying to go line by line with them. So we do it in advance as part of their homework so that they can ask us any questions on the front end and have an understanding of the purchase and sale agreement. Okay? My advice for everyone that's seasoned or new to the business, you should read that purchase and sale agreement at least once a day, if not once a week. And I'll tell you that part of my skill and craft has come from reading that purchase and sale agreement every single day when I started in the business and every time a new one comes out. The reason for that is when I'm negotiating, I often upset listing agents because they don't read the purchase and sale agreement enough, and I'm able to beat them out of technicalities. So I highly recommend reading the purchase and sale agreement and truly understanding what it reads and how it reads. I'll give you an example. I had an agent send me over an appraisal on one of my listings, and he said that the home didn't appraise, they wanted me to reduce the price. I said, okay, thank you for the email. 24 hours passes, his appraisal contingency expires, and he follows up with me and he says, hey Andrew, are you guys ready to reduce the price? And I said, oh, we're not reducing the price. And he said, well, we sent you the appraisal, and so we're going to terminate. And I go, okay, well, you guys can certainly terminate, and we're going to be able to take the earnest money. And he said, wait, what do you mean? And I said, well, if you read the contract, it specifically says that you have to provide an amendment to reduce sales price. You didn't do that, so unfortunately, we get to keep the earnest money. Well, he ended up telling his client ended up buying it anyway and paying the difference at closing. So that is a prime example of how critical it is to understand the purchase and sale agreement. So not only can you explain it to your buyer and also be able to negotiate for your buyer by having that clarity and understanding around it. So we'll go over earnest money. We'll talk about customarily it's 1 to 2% on the purchase price. It's held in a trust account until closing. When you buy it, you're going to see that money credited back to you. If you terminate in the periods of protection that we negotiate for you, then you'll get that money back. If you terminate outside the periods of protection that we negotiate for you, the seller will get to keep it as compensation. And so what I tell them after that is great news. In my years of business, I've never lost a client's earnest money. However, I have had clients lose their own earnest money. And what I mean by that is during the process, we're going to be giving you deadlines and checklists as well as advice. If at any moment you don't follow the deadlines and checklists or the advice that we give, understand that you are responsible for what happens to that earnest money. This is a partnership to protect your earnest money. We'll do our part and you'll have to do your part, right? So we actually talked through the numbers of closing costs and costs to get to closing and what the differences are. Closing costs, I tell them to budget for 3 to 4% of the purchase price. And I tell them that number varies because it's dependent on who you choose as your lender, who the attorney is, and what the prepaids and prorations are for the property. However, on average, people spend between 3 and 4%. Okay? And
so
then
dependent on the lenders and what else?
Attorney's fees and then whatever the property taxes or insurance is on the property. 3 to 4% is a good budget. I've already set the expectation at this point that in this market, anything less than $700,000 is a seller's market, and that they're less likely to get seller contribution or a seller to agree to repairs. And I tell them we're going to budget for this 4%. And when you hire us, we are going to do our best to negotiate for seller contribution. However, what we don't want to happen is we're in a multiple offer situation, and the seller says, I'll only choose you if you pay for your own closing costs. We want you to have that choice. Do you want this house? Do you love it enough that you're willing to pay for your own closing costs to get the house? Because what we don't want to happen is you write an offer on a house, you're expecting closing costs, the seller says, hey, it's multiple offers, and the only way you can get it is if you pay for your own. And you can't. And so when you hire us, we're here to strategically position you to win in this market. And that's exactly why you're hiring us. So now we got closing costs out of the way. We have the expectation that they're already budgeted for it. We talk about costs to get to closing, and I say to them, costs to get to closing is different from closing costs. These are costs to you as a buyer to ensure that you're comfortable and confident in what you're buying. This is going to be your home inspection, your appraisal, your survey, your termite inspection, and any additional inspections that may be important to you, whether it be fireplace or a pool. Now I'm going to share with you guys, it's very important that A, you're given the advice to do all these inspections. B, it's very important that you put it in your buyer brokerage agreement that you gave the advice for them to do these inspections. And I'll tell you why. Karen Eberson, I'm sure she won't mind me sharing this story. She's out of the Dunwoody office. She was working with a buyer, sold them a house, they did their inspections, they were fine. They moved in, and then about 6 months later, Karen gets a letter that she's getting sued by the buyer. What happened was they lit their fireplace 6 months later, and there was problems with it, and it didn't work. And so they blamed Karen for not giving her the direct advice to do a fireplace inspection. Well, the attorneys or the judges decided that it was Karen's fault. Karen got sued for thousands of dollars for a buyer that she helped buy a house. So I'm going to tell you now, your clients are going to be awesome, they're going to be great, and oftentimes what happens is when something goes wrong, it's someone around them that's telling them that they should be doing something legally. And you don't want to get sued for working hard for your client. So make sure you're setting the expectations that A, through your buyer brokerage, that they're going to be doing all these inspections that are important to them. B, you're giving them that advice when you get them under contract, right? So we tell them to budget for $2,000 to cover these items. And we say this number's plus or minus because it's dependent on how many different inspections are you doing and who are you hiring to do them. And I let them know that, working with us, they do get access to our strategic partners, right? That's our home inspectors, our lenders, our attorneys. Everyone in here can have a strategic partners list because we have a list of them at the front, right? And that's a value add of why they're working with us. Now, we set expectations on hours of operations and our processes. I tell everyone, I say, hey, I work from Monday through Friday from 9 to 6, weekend by appointment only. Sunday, I do take off. If you decide you want to go look at homes on Sunday, that's going to be the day that one of our showing partners is going to take you out. This concierge, their role in the process is literally just to open the door for you. Our goal is for you to see homes at your convenience and not our convenience, and that's why we have them, right? So they already know on Sunday they're not going to get a hold of me. And that gives you a moment to take a day off or a break, right? We all need it. And so the next thing I'm telling them is if you call me after 6 p.m., please don't be offended that I don't respond. I shut down at night so I can work hard for you during the day. And you'll get a response within 24 hours. Trust me, they still do text, they still do call, and you don't feel bad for ignoring them because you're going to follow up with them the next day, okay? So I think it's really important to protect your time because realistically, if you're constantly on the phone and working all hours of the night, you're likely not going to work hard during the day for them. We talk about referral and reviews. What I tell everyone is our business is driven by referrals. And once we've done a great job for you, one of the greatest compliments we can get is for you to refer your people to us. And one of the things that we'd ask you for as a compliment is if we've given you 5-star service, please leave us 5-star reviews on all our platforms. This really helps other buyers who don't know us better understand what it's like working with us, and it really helps. And so we're setting the expectation that we're going to be asking for referrals, and we're going to be asking them to do reviews, so they're not surprised when you ask. Now, the last part of the process is we'll go through the buyer's packet, which I'll quickly mention some of the things in there, and then we'll do the buyer's agreement. Again, in your packet, you can put whatever you want in it. We've made some things to put in there. We made a map of Atlanta that we scanned that has our branding on it. We just explained that it has area numbers and how that helps with their search. Copy of the purchase and sale agreement. I put in there a home warranty packet. And the way I explain it is I say, buying a home, things tend to break. And one of the ways to minimize your cash out of pocket is by getting a home warranty. You don't have to specifically use this one. This is just one that we recommend. And the great thing is this warranty covers you for a year. And if anything breaks, you pay the service fee for them to come out and inspect it, and they'll repair or replace it for free. And I just go through it and kind of explain the different things. And I say, it doesn't matter which home warranty company you choose. We just recommend getting some kind of home warranty on your home. Okay. We have in here that JC created is a list of the process. As a buyer, what are the processes that you're going to go through so that at any given time you have a reference point of where are you in the process and what are you expecting next. What this does is it minimizes how many times you're going to get calls with buyers saying, hey, is anything going on? Is there anything that we need to be doing? What's happening next? right? Because imagine if you're working with 15 or 20 buyers at a time and everybody calls you during the day. You're not going to be able to get anything done. So we give them a list of what to expect so that it takes away that opportunity for them to ask us all those questions because they have the information in their packet. We created a cutout of our app. This is how we're promoting the Keller Williams app, as well as what is part of our value add, right? We tell them, hey, you can download our great app by texting whatever to this number. And the best benefit of this app right now is if you click my current location, wherever you are, it will tell you what homes are for sale. And they always appreciate that. And I tell them, get really excited because later this year when we update the app, there's going to be some great features for you that will also show places of interest, places of insight that we frequent and what we recommend for the area. And so that gets them to download the app. Why does that matter? Because the more they're on your app, the less they're on Zillow or Trulia, looking at misinformation, right? And then in the packet, I have my guideline that I use. I write on this notes. It's pretty much everything that we just talked about written out. I just make copies of it and I basically fill it in as I go. I scan this with my sign-in sheet, with my ABC buyer and the buyer brokerage at the end. That way I have my notes, I have all their information and contact, I have their signed agreement, and it makes it a lot easier to put them in the database as well as keep everything in order. So when I'm going through the buyer brokerage agreement, this is how I explain it and why I want to say my conversion rate last year was 90%. So 9 out of 10 buyers signed it. I'd pull it out and I'd say, hey, this is the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. What this contract does is it allows me to legally give you advice, negotiate for you, and fill out the pre-printed purchase and sale agreement. You do want me to do those things, right? Yes. Great. And so this is drafted by the Georgia Association of Realtors, and I point at it. And I say, what that means to you as a buyer is a couple things. It's drafted by the Georgia Association of Realtors, so any realtor you work with in the state of Georgia, this is the exact contract you're signing. Why does that matter? Because that way you know that it's not drafted by myself or Keller Williams, and I didn't put in there that after you buy the house, you have to buy me a puppy. And so because it's a standard contract, I'm only going to go over the blanks that I fill in. And so literally, I only talk about the first page, and I literally flip the page and I go, no blanks, no blanks, no blanks. Okay, here's the next blank. And the reason for that is I'm going to be honest, I don't want to read through that. I don't want to sit there and read line by line with them on it. And so to save me time, I just said it's a standard contract. Here's the blanks. We're going to talk about the blanks because that's the only thing I change. When I get to that next page that has the attachments and special stipulations, you'll see a checkbox that I included a copy of Protect Yourself When Buying a Home. And then I say there are 3 stipulations when working with me. First one is buyer's agency agreement due diligence recommendation. What this states is that I do give you the advice to do your inspections. Number 2, HOA. What this stipulation states is that I do give you the advice to speak with the HOA directly to better understand what it costs to be an owner and what are the rules and regulations for the neighborhood. And I say to them, it's really important when you're buying in the neighborhood with an HOA that you understand that it's a fit for your lifestyle. And I give them an example. I say, for me personally, when I'm looking at a home, I want to know, can my friends park on the street and can I work on my car in the driveway? If those 2 things aren't there, that's not a neighborhood I want to be in, right? So we want to make sure that you hear from the horse's mouth the answers to the questions that you may have about the neighborhood. And then number 3, I actually put a guarantee in my contract. It says, our guaranteed services gives you the option to cancel this agreement for any reason with a written notice via mail or email. And I say to them, this is in here for your confidence. Our goal is to give you that 5-star service and ensure that we're getting you to your goals. And I tell them, we certainly understand that, not everyone's going to be a match and not all visions are going to align. And so I say, if at any given moment you feel like I'm not giving you 5-star service and you're not getting the level of standard you expect, first and foremost, please let us know what we can do differently. And I say to them, I'm a student. I'm constantly learning. How do we better serve our clients? And if there's something that we can change, we'd like to do that for you. Now, if we can't come to an agreement on a solution, all you have to do is send me written notice via mail or email that you no longer want to work with me. And I say to them, you know, this is rarely used, however, it's there for your confidence. Does that make you feel better about signing this agreement today? And they say yes. And then I flip it over and I say, all right, this is the page that you're going to sign. And I include a copy of the affiliated marketing disclosure statement. This is required by the office for you to have your buyer sign. And I say to them, what this states is that if you use either of these service providers, you understand that there's a business relationship in the office. And I was like, it doesn't directly affect you, however, it's just an acknowledgement that you are aware that there is a business relationship. And they sign that. Identity theft and wire fraud awareness and prevention notice, I have them sign this. And I say, hey, this form right here, what it says is, you know, unfortunately there's people out there targeting real estate transactions. And they're trying to get your private information as well as you to send money somewhere. And I was like, to ensure that we protect your identity and your money and ensure it doesn't end up with some prince in Nigeria who's going to pay your taxes with Target gift cards, call me, let me verify over the telephone that it is the correct place you're sending it to. Because there will be people who ask for private information and for you to send money. Now, this is very critical. I don't know if you guys are aware, there's actually one of the attorney law firms right now, they're getting sued by a seller because they got tricked. They got an email that said, hey, this is the seller. I'd like you to wire the proceeds from the closing to this bank account. They didn't call the seller. They wired it. Over $200,000 lost. So they're getting sued right now. So keep in mind, you're working with these buyers. If they lose a lot of money, who do you think they're pointing fingers at? Okay. It's not worth losing your business over one client because you didn't want them to be aware of signing this and having that understanding. So I highly recommend getting that signed, right? Because let's be honest, in this business, you have a lot of visibility of being sued. I mean, it's just the nature of the business. There's so many things that can go wrong, and so when you're working with your buyers, you know, part of having this system and process really ensures you don't make those mistakes. Because for me, a buyer can't argue that I didn't advise him to do inspections because A, it's in the contract, you signed it. B, I know every single buyer's consultation I'm having this conversation, so I can produce witnesses that'll say, oh, when I met with Andrew, he said that. When I met with Andrew, he said that. So by having that system and standard, it makes it a lot easier for you to replicate and duplicate your business, grow your business, as well as protect yourself. So we're done with the buyer's consultation. Now they've already gotten pre-approved. What's the next step? And I tell them, after you've gotten pre-approved, we're going to schedule a time to do your needs analysis. Because at the consultation, I'm not talking about the houses you want or dream of, because without knowing that you're pre-approved, that's not best use of time. So now we'll do the needs analysis. And I say, you know, there's three things about a house. There's price, location, and the home and its features. We can guarantee two at any given time. If you want the best house, best price, it's not going to be the best location. If you want the best location, best house, it's not going to be the cheapest house. And so I give them that clarity to help them prioritize what is most important to you. Because you'll have buyers that will run you in circles because they'll say, oh, this isn't the right location. Oh, this isn't cheap enough. Or, oh, the house didn't have XYZ. And they're just going to run you in circles. So by setting this expectation on the front end, you're then able to ring them in. So I tell people, we've seen 10 homes and we haven't found a house you want to write an offer on. Then we need to reconvene to discuss how do we create more opportunities for you. Do we increase your price? Do we change the location? Or do we change our expectations of the home and its features? How would you prioritize? Right? And so that really helps dig in for them to get that clarity on what is most important to them. For newer agents and seasoned agents, it's important to preview property. So especially, let's say you're taking a buyer out to go look at condos. I highly, highly recommend that you go look at every single condo first before you show them, because every condo community is going to have different parking lots, different places where they keep the Supra, different processes of accessing the home. And trust me, you don't want to look like a noob in front of a buyer looking around skyscrapers trying to figure out where you're going and how to get there. So previewing property really helps you get clarity on how are you going to walk them through? You know, it's so much easier to help them love the house when you know where you're going than trying to help them love the house when you're trying to figure it out. Call the agents when scheduling. Obviously, you can use showing time to schedule appointments now through the online web. I still call agents after I do that, and there's a few reasons for that. I want to confirm availability. Let's be honest, we all get busy. We don't always, up to the second, update statuses, right? So I want to confirm that, hey, is it active? Do you have any active offers? Right? Some people don't like that you call, and you'd be doing a disservice to your client if you didn't. And so, hey, I just want to verify because we're in a hot market. Are you still active, and do you have any active offers? Right? Next thing I want to ask, is there any special showing instructions? Is there anything I should be aware of when showing the house? Their alarm, dogs, anything like that. And what are the less than obvious features? I always tell them, hey, so I have this buyer, and what would you say your seller loves most about this house or the area, right? Because oftentimes the agent has been out there, if you're not previewing, knows the area or whatnot, and may know something that may help you sell the house. And so I always ask for other agents' insight on why they think the house should sell. And then we do our home evaluations. So once I've figured out the houses that we're going to show them, I go on FMOS and I look at different views. I go to aerial view. I zoom in, I look from a satellite view, and I look for power lines, detention ponds. I look for anything around it, if it backs up the commercial, anything that I believe will affect its future value, right? And I'll take notes of that. And then I'll do street view. Why do I want to see street view? I want to know, is it below grade, level lot, above grade on a huge hill? And once I have these notes, I'll then look at the MLS history. Has it been on the market before? Has it been expired? Has it been sold? Is it a flip? Because all those things are critical on helping your buyer succeed. If it's a flip within the last 90 days, you're not going to be able to sell to an FHA buyer. If it was sold through Open Door, recently sold and then Open Door just got it, you want to understand, at what point did they get it and have they done anything with it. And once I have all this information, I've done the assessment of the home and its features, I've looked through the pictures, and I've looked at what is active in the neighborhood, what is pending, what just sold, and what's in the area. I'll then call my buyer or email them a list of my notes. And the reason why I do this is because you'll have buyers that'll say, you'll pull up to the house, and the house will be below grade. And they'll say, ooh, I don't like homes below grade. But let's go inside and see it, right? And it's a complete waste of time because that may be something for them that is a deal breaker. And so I want to ask on the front end, if I see a house that's below grade, I'm going to have that conversation. I'm going to say, hey, look, this house you sent me, it actually sits below grade. Would you be comfortable with that? And the reason why I ask is there are buyers out there in the marketplace that when you call me years from now to sell it, that may rule your house out due to it being below grade. Are you okay with that? If they say yes, then okay, I'll show them. If they say no, and I'll say, okay, I understand, and to make sure that we don't miss out on any opportunities and we're using the best use of your time, we're going to skip this house, and I'm going to take it off the list. My goal is to minimize how many homes I'm showing. I want to show them the best homes first and get them under contract, right? And so part of that does take legwork. It takes previewing, it takes doing analysis online, looking through pictures, looking at aerial views and maps. And that really helps you to be able to help your buyer as well as help yourself. So then it's time to write the offer. So as mentioned, we've already had them do their homework, they've already read through the contract, and we're ready to write an offer. We do a market analysis for them. Me personally, I like to start broad and work my way in. I like to understand from a macro perspective what's happening in the area, zip code, or school district, how many homes are active, how many homes are under contract, and how many homes are sold. And then I'll work my way in until we get into the neighborhood, right? That way I can have a competent conversation with the buyer. I'll then call all the agents who are under contract or recently sold in the area. And I'll say, hey, congratulations on your contract. I'm curious to know, is there any reason why your buyer chose this house over that house? Or, is there anything special about this house that isn't obvious that caused your buyer to put this house under contract? That way you can have the expertise and not necessarily see every single house, right? You're not going to preview every single house that's on the market. And that'll give you an opportunity to get some insight to be able to relay back to the buyer, hey, you know, this house over here, I'm using it as a comp. It's under contract right now, and the thing the buyer loved about this is because it had this differently than every other house in the neighborhood. And that's why we may see a price difference, right? Next thing is I'll call the lender. I'll call them and I'll say, hey, just want to understand where we are in the process. At this point, they should already be pre-approved. And just want to understand, you know, have you gone through the numbers with them? Here's the property address. Can you run estimates for them? Okay. I want to understand also what kind of buyer are they? Are they a bulletproof buyer? Are they a shaky buyer? You know, where are we in the process? Because when I go to negotiate, that's something I need to be aware of is can I waive my financing contingency? Can I waive my appraisal contingency? Can I shorten the timelines of contingencies? Can I move up the closing date? How can I strategically position the buyer to win the offer if it becomes a multiple offer situation? So from there, I'll discuss pricing with the client. I'll give them a range. Normally it's about $25,000. I'll either say, hey, it's based on market analysis, I'd say this home sells for between $400 to $425. Okay. So the next line you'll see I put give variables and scenarios to your client, and I explain why I have this range. So on the low end, based on market stats, I believe this. And the reason why I have a higher spectrum is because it also goes back to how many active buyers are in the marketplace that are looking in this neighborhood that have to be in this neighborhood. And I said, because I'm going to be honest, what changes price often enough is no longer logic, it is now emotion. And so I'm giving you this range to help you understand that if we become in a multiple offer situation, it's not impossible that a buyer could drive the price up due to emotion and pay this much. I'm setting the expectation because it's happened before where I say a price, and then it becomes a multiple offer situation, and they offer that price and they're not willing to go up because I already said the price. And so now I have a little bit of cushion and leeway that if I am in a multiple offer situation, I can say to them, hey, remember when we had the conversation about pricing and I said, you know, one of the things I could change the price is if another buyer offers on it. So now it's a lot easier to say, hey, do you want to go up? Versus if I only say one price and one price only, they're going to be stuck to that price. So I'll also go over scenarios with them because every buyer wants to negotiate. And so I'll ask them, okay, do you love this house? They say yes. I say to them, okay. And the reason why I ask you this question is, you know, what I don't want to happen is that we're spending all this time trying to negotiate something that we don't win. And I would be very upset if I didn't get you the house that you love. So we have really two options. You know, I'll spend all day long negotiating for you. And here's what we have to understand is that during the time frame it takes for us to negotiate, another buyer could walk in and write an offer on that. And they could secure the home. And so you really have to consider from that perspective, how much do you love this house? Now, if you tell me, Andrew, I like the house, I don't have to have it, then we can negotiate all day long, and if it sells to someone else, that's okay, you didn't love it. So I'll ask you again, how much do you love this house? By doing that, I'm setting the expectation that A, it's their decision on what happens, right? Because if you don't get your buyer the house, and you didn't set these expectations, it's likely they're going to blame you and think that it's your lack of effort. And realistically, that's not what it is. They didn't come in strong enough to earn the house, right? Second thing is it helps them understand the differences between the two. Because yes, you can negotiate all day long, first off, and if you don't get the house, you didn't negotiate anything at all. And second off, you didn't get the house, right? So they really think it through, like, do I really want to spend time negotiating? Or does this house make sense for me enough that I am comfortable paying list price or whatever the case may be? Okay. We use templates when we draft our offer. So when you look at our purchase and sale agreement, I don't know if it's on the sample. I went in .loop and I basically filled everything in so that literally the only thing I'm filling in is the front page, which is the address and such. No, it's not in here. Typically, so for example, I'll do a template. I'm going to already have my attorney's office filled in. I'm already going to put Keller Williams Realty Peachtree Road as holder of earnest money. I'm already going to have 10-day due diligence in there, selling brokers, KW. And then I'm going to have my main stipulations on the special stipulations page already populated. It's going to have a survey stip in there. It's going to have likely seller's property disclosure stip. That way, when I'm ready to write the offer, I'm literally only filling in like the address and the price, and all the other stuff is there. If I don't need it, I just delete it, right? But it makes it so much easier to put together an offer. When you already have that template, you literally just drag and drop it, punch in the info. Okay.
How many special steps? I'm sorry.
Depends on what your common practice is. So for me, I have a special stip bank. Anytime I do transactions with other agents and they use a special stip that's good, I'm like, oh, taking that. Yes, sir.
So you always ask for a survey from?
Yes, so the way I do survey, I don't ask for the survey. What I do is I'm setting the parameters for a survey. I'm saying that it's going to be done within this time frame. And the reason why I do that is because if you don't put that in there, you're going to have to do it during your due diligence. Due diligence is only 10 days long. Most survey companies take a week to go out there, plot the lines, and then present you with a map, right? So I put in there that then the buyer has the right to do a survey within the first 14 days of going under contract. If there are any material defects that will affect title insurance or the buyer's ability to finance, seller will present objections to seller. Buyer will present objections to seller within 48 hours. Seller then has 1 or 2 days to respond. If the seller disagrees, then the buyer can terminate and receive earnest money back. So surveys, really critical piece. I've had enough nightmare stories. Fortunately, we do surveys that I'm gonna recommend it to everyone. I've had one where I walk out, beautiful backyard, beautiful green grass, really nice yard. We did a survey. We found out that beneath that grass was a retention pond. You're not gonna know. Without doing a survey, you're just not going to know. Another example, we did a survey on a property. We found out that there was a 100-year agreement with Georgia Power that they can come through and build power lines at any given time. No power lines there today. However, they have the right to do that. So imagine you sell your buyer a house, you don't do a survey, and Georgia Power says, hey, we're ready to put our power towers up right in your backyard. How are you going to explain that to your buyer? You're not. You're going to get sued. So make sure you're doing all your inspections.
Wow.
Because there's plenty of stories out there that bad things happen when you don't do your inspections. And let's think about it. 2,000 is only 1% if you're buying a $200,000 house. So you're telling me you're going to invest $200,000 in a house and you're worried about $2,000. So I highly advise giving your clients all the advice to do these inspections.
I like how specific you are, say within 14 days. I have issues with that.
Yeah, you gotta be
say
specific.
that, so we have to change the
Yeah. All right, multiple offer situations. We've had some great success winning multiple offer situations without paying over list price. It's actually what we brag about to our clients. How we start off. I always call the agent and I always say, hey, is there anything important to your client other than the purchase price? Maybe closing date, temporary occupancy, fast closing, long closing, right? I want to have that understanding so that when I write the offer, the agent that didn't call, I'm the one that's going to stand out from that perspective, right? Next thing is talk with the lender to see if you can waive financing or appraisal contingency. I only recommend this if you have experience with that lender and you know that they're going to get the job done, okay? Shorter timelines, that could be due diligence at 5 days, 7 days, or you can do appraisal contingency in the first 10 to 14, financing from 14 to 20. Just shortening it down to give them that confidence really helps, and that goes back to making sure that you're really in alignment with all your strategic partners. For us, like our home inspector, we have that relationship that if we need someone to go out the next day, they're going to make it happen for us. So if we have a short due diligence, let's say it's only 5 days, we know that the inspector's going to go out the next day. Okay. You could also do right to request repairs, which is different from due diligence. If you waive your due diligence, if you say 0-day due diligence, you could do a right to request repairs. Now, read this contract over and over. Talk to Kathy Woods if you need to better understand it. I'm going to generally explain it, and don't take this as legal advice. My perspective and perception of right to request repairs works like this. The buyer has the right to do an inspection within a certain time frame. If there is any material defect that is found that is not obvious when walking through the home, you can request for those items to be addressed by the seller. If the seller agrees, the buyer has to buy the house. Okay, how is that a benefit? So I explained to the listing agent and seller this way. My buyer is so confident about buying their home that we're not going to do a due diligence. The only thing we ask for is an inspection and the right to request repairs for material defects. And what I mean by that is structural concerns or something like that. And this is why you should choose my buyer, is because we don't need a due diligence to figure out if we want the house. We want the house. We just want to make sure that it's sound. And because of that, it gives you leverage and gives you some negotiations. Now, you do have to talk to the listing agent about it. There are some listing agents that are green about it and are a little uncertain about what it means, and then they don't want you. So I tell them, I always say, hey, curious to know, sometimes we do a right to request repairs to show how serious our buyers are. Would you prefer that, or would you prefer a due diligence period?
Next, this question, you're saying right to request repairs. I mean, just a visual. You go in, you see some things, you actually don't do due diligence, you just ask them to do what you actually see.
The inspector finds that is a material defect. Okay. So if you walk in and you see that, let's say the AC doesn't work, you see that it doesn't work, that is an obvious thing, right? So that's not something you're asking for. You could ask for it because it's a material defect, but they could push back and say, hey, but that was already disclosed, that that's a problem, right?
That's latent defects.
Yeah.
I can sell it to squad.
Correct. So it's more so like you get a general idea walking through the house that it's in decent condition, that the odds are the buyer's not going to have that much to take on. Because we've already set the expectations, the buyer's going to pay between 1 to 2% of the purchase price in repairs on their own. Anything beyond that is when we get concerned and we want to evaluate. So I'm already telling them, like, okay, we did the inspection, we got our contractor to quote all these items, it's a $200,000 house, it's only $2,000 worth of repairs. Great. So first we're going to see if the seller will agree to these repairs. If they don't, that's kind of what you can expect. I'm setting that expectation so that they're not like, well, he didn't want to paint the walls, so I don't want to buy the house anymore. No. We already know in this market, you're going to expect to take 1 to 2% repairs on. Any house you look at, doesn't matter if it's this one, that one, there's going to be something about it that is going to add up likely to 1 to 2% of the purchase price. Anything beyond that is where we're having a conversation of, is this truly the right property, right? And I mean, going through that process, it's the same thing. Like, I'm setting that expectation with my buyers. Like, if you terminate on this house, what does it cost you to get back into the market? Did the interest rate change?
Right.
What are the additional inspection costs? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's add all those things up and let's figure out, does it really make sense? If you're fighting over $1,000, you're going to spend $1,000 on the next house just on inspections.
Right.
So do you think something out there, if it's equal or better at a better price, then yeah, it's probably worth it for you to terminate. But if you can't point out a house for me that you think is equal or better, it's going to cost you more to leave this house. And this house, you already told me, met the most of your needs and wants. That's why we're under contract for it. So that helps you keep your buyers in the game, right? Option money. I've never personally used this. What option money is a non-refundable deposit. You're basically saying, hey, seller, here's $1,000, pick me. If I don't close, you get to keep it. And if I don't close in my periods of protection, or I terminate outside my periods of protection, you also get my earnest money, okay? Some sellers like that. Not many agents use it, so it is a way to get a leg up. You just have to have that clarity with your buyer to say, hey, this is non-refundable. This is you paying the admission to play the game. Okay. We also get our clients to do a Dear Seller letter. And what I tell my clients is this works majority of the time. There are some people that don't care. However, with a process where it's all down to numbers, right? They're getting all these offers and it's just all numbers. This is a point that you can make to switch them from a logical thinking to an emotional thinking, right? So we do a Dear Seller letter, and all it says is Dear Seller, my name is so-and-so. Thank you for letting me see your house. We could really see ourselves living here. We have this many dogs or this many cats and our kids and whatnot. And thank you for the opportunity for considering our offer. I've had sellers come back and say, hey, we picked you only because of the letter. We had better offers, but because you provided this letter, it really helped my seller connect with your buyer. So never hurts to put it in there. I mean, you could have someone that's like, I hate cats, I don't want you living in this house after I move out. I don't know. But you're more likely going to have a positive reaction, right? All right, so we talked about the inspections. As mentioned, if there's a fireplace, do a fireplace inspection. If there's a pool, do a pool inspection. Do your surveys and anything the general home inspector recommends. We really lean on our general home inspector to guide our clients and give them the advice to do the additional inspections. When he's out there, he's evaluating the defects and whatnot, and if he thinks a structural engineer is needed, he's going to write in the inspection report, recommends getting a structural engineer to inspect, okay? And that's your opportunity to leverage that and say, hey, even the general home inspector says you should get a structural engineer. I think we should get them out there. If they say, well, I don't want to spend any more money on inspections, and say, hey, what you don't want to spend is the money could cost if something's actually wrong. So let's do these inspections. Right. Homeowner association, we're going to get them to talk to them directly. The appraisal. We explain to them that the appraisal is an opinion, and it really depends on what side of the bed the appraiser woke up on and if he had his morning coffee. Because that's just the reality of it. You got one person going out there giving an evaluation. And I say to them, I have had clients in the past where the appraisal came in lower, and it wasn't due to the fact that the house wasn't worth it. The appraisal is not the end all be all. It's the opinion of the appraiser. And so, at that point, we have some options. Where first, obviously, we're going to ask the seller to reduce the appraised value. Now, in the event the seller doesn't agree to it, because that's their right, we then have to evaluate, does it make sense for you to bring the additional funds to closing, or does it make sense for you to terminate? And I say to them, there's a cost of going back on the market to look for another house, as well as, what we want to really look at is the price of the house that it's at, that you're under contract for, that you had already said that you felt it was worth. Even though the appraiser said it was worth less, you got to ask yourself, what are you going to find that's equal or better out in the marketplace? If we can figure out that house, then let's terminate, let's move on to the next house. If we can't figure that out, then this is the right house and it's worth the price, right? Because it goes back to something's worth it if you can't find something equal or better. Okay. Financing. God, so many deals fall apart because of financing. You've really got to get a hold of your relationship with your lenders. Make sure that you understand their processes and stay ahead of the curve when stuff starts to go awry. Think outside of the box. My lenders will tell you that I call with the craziest questions and thoughts, and I'll be honest, a lot of our clients in the past either have trouble qualifying or have unique situations, and so I'm constantly thinking creatively for my clients. And so I always get in trouble with one of my lenders because he always says, Andrew, you really walk the gray a lot with these questions. And so for me, I always want to understand my client's financial state and how do we position them to win. So I'm always thinking outside the box. Can we do this instead? Can we do that instead? For example, I have a client that's closing next week, and something came up. So the husband's buying the house, and they did not count the car payment against him because it was for his wife, even though it was in his name, and he didn't make payments on it. Well, they asked for 12 months bank statements, and 1 month out of the 12 months, he made a payment. And so now they're saying, we're going to have to count this liability against you. And so we had to get creative. Well, unfortunately and fortunately, they totaled the car a couple weeks ago. And so I said to Brandon, hey Brandon, if we can provide proof that the car's totaled and it's paid off, and that they bought a cash car, can we get moving forward? That's what we were able to do. So, just scenarios like that, you really have to think for your clients sometimes, because they're not going to know any more than you on how to get to their financing. And, I'm grateful that I started at a time that was really, really challenging, and a lot of the deals I work with, they weren't well qualified buyers, and so therefore I had to put more legwork in. So it really helps to be well versed in financing, because A, that helps you generate more business, B, it helps you help those people that need the help, right? Oftentimes I'm talking to different lenders and I'm just asking them, hey, what's your most creative product? That's helped us generate business, because I've done multiple posts and I've said, hey, if you want to buy a house and put 0% down, call me. Who doesn't want to do that, right? So your alliance partner, Supreme Lending, has a 0% product. You could be leveraging that. You could be telling your network, if you want to buy a house and you don't want to put a down payment down, call me. Kenzie Flood, 0% down payment with Supreme Lending. It's a no-brainer. That's going to generate you business and you can get more deals done.
Wait, that exists?
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So that's the key thing. You got to go talk to the lenders. You got to say, hey, what's your most creative product? What do you have that people are looking for? That's how you're going to generate more business through buyers, right? Because buyers, let's be honest, everybody has their mom, aunt, sister, cousin, friend, best friend that's a realtor. So what are you doing differently to get their attention and earn their business? It's through providing value. Because not everyone's going to tell you, hey, I got a 0% down payment product. That's not down payment assistance, right? So that's a good way to attract buyers. So understand the financing. At this point, we're under contract. I'm asking for reviews and asking for the referral. I'm asking, how are we doing? You know, can we get reviews, right? Because it's going to take multiple times of you asking for them to do it. Social media. We post. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you when you do a review request, do you kind of send them an email or give them a sheet or anything that says, okay,
Yes.
this is what we have done so far, so that they can kind of gather their thoughts as to the values?
It's more verbally, and it's more so, hey, we just got you under contract, we're on the way to your goals, right? Can you leave us a review, right? And they're likely not going to get to it then, but you're continually asking, right, until they do. At that point, we're posting on social media, because one of the key things that's going to help you get business is social proof. When someone can say, my friend bought with this person, it's easier for them to say, oh, I'm going to buy with that person too, right? So the more people you can get in front of and say, hey, I just got this person under contract, right? Don't make it about you, don't make it about the house, make it about the person. I just got this person under contract. We're on our way to their goals, right? Their friends are going to see that tag or whatnot, and they're going to be able to say, oh, I'm just working with them, and I'm like this person, so maybe I'd like working with them too. So the week of closing, again, we're asking for reviews and asking for referrals if they haven't already done it. At this point, I do give the advice for anyone that has had repairs done to do re-inspections. Okay, have the home inspector come back out. And the buyers will often say, well, I don't want to spend the extra money. I mean, they did it, right? So why do we need to re-inspect? What I tell them is, hey, we want to inspect what we expect. We want to make sure that the things were done and they were done correctly and up to code. So let's get the inspector out there to verify that it was done correctly. Okay, you want to do that the week after. So in your special stipulations, when you're doing your amendment to address concerns, whatever the case may be, you want to put in there that the buyer has the right to inspect the work after it's completed, and that the work is completed X days before closing, so that consistently you're going to schedule your re-inspection X days before closing. That way you can go ahead and schedule for your inspector to be out there. You don't have to worry about pulling favors. You already know that for us it's 7 days before closing. So I look at the closing date, I see 7 days before, I call the inspector, I say, hey, go ahead and put on the calendar, you're going out 7 days before this date. All right, so we get them to do the re-inspection. We'll do the final walkthrough. I like to do it the night before, day before, morning of. And what I tell them is I tell them 15 minutes, okay? I say, hey, we're gonna meet for 15 minutes, we're gonna do a quick walkthrough to make sure that the home is pretty much how we originally saw it. We just want to make sure no trees have fallen or roofs have caved in or anything, right? Because it does happen. I know plenty of agents that the day of walkthrough, the house either got flooded or a tree fell through the roof and whatnot, and they're getting ready to close on it. So we want to make sure we're doing that final walkthrough. Then you want to make sure you're following up with the lender for the clear to close. You need a certain amount of days to get it over to the attorney's office. We want to make sure that it's on the way and there's no hiccups, right? What you don't want to do is sit at the closing table for 8 hours waiting for the lender to send everything over. Okay, and then you go to closing day. I always tell my clients, hope you work your arms out. You're going to be signing lots of paperwork. And the good news is you're getting the keys to your new home. We personally do a closing gift. You don't have to do a closing gift. You can do what you like. You can do a thank you card or something. For us, we do a bottle of champagne with a sticker of our branding on it. I know some people don't like to do consumables because they're going to forget you. For us, it just works. We just go to Costco, we buy like 10 bottles at a time, $50 a pop. It just makes it easy for us to just hand over the bottle, take a picture with it, and have our branding on it, right? So after closing, again, we want to post to social media. We want that social proof. So now we get 2 tags. We got tag under contract. Now we got tag closed. That's 2 times the exposure for the same client. So we want to take advantage of that, right? Good way is if you go on my social media, I'm kind of hogging it up. I'm videoing them at closing, and then I'm posting a picture at, I'm tagging them, and I'm doing all these things to make sure that I'm getting that social proof. A lot of our business comes from referrals, and that's what's really helped our business is people have told me, hey, you help so-and-so buy a house. So we're going to give you a chance, right? So we're definitely firm believers on social proof. And then we ask for the reviews and ask for the referral. Now, whenever they do the reviews, we tell them if they do a review on every single one of our platforms, Yelp, Zillow, Google, Facebook, that on the day of their move-in day, we're going to send pizza for them. Okay, you don't have to send pizza. You don't have to do anything for them. For us, we just like to do that for our clients. So we send them pizza as a thank you. We send them 2 pizzas, and we normally let them choose between Pizza Hut, Papa John's, and whatever's nearby, right? Simple, probably 10, 20 bucks. And then they always thank us for it. We always say, we know you're going to be really busy and moving in, and we want to thank you for doing the review, so we're sending you pizza, okay? And that really helps because oftentimes, who's helping them move? Their friends, right? Mm-hmm. And so if the pizza comes in, they go, well, where'd the pizza come from? Oh, my agent sent it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
How does that make you look?
Great.
Pretty good,
Especially
right?
if you have stick for it.
Yeah. And then we schedule for us to send out the following year homestead exemption reminders. That's a good way to connect. We send out a mailer, we send out an email, we physically call them, and we just say, hey, did you do your homestead exemption? Another opportunity to speak with them with a purpose, right? Sometimes we get scared to call our clients because we don't really have a reason other than we're looking for business, and so that's a good way to show value and provide something and say, hey, we're here to remind you that do your homestead exemption. That's how you're going to save money. By the way, do you know anyone that's thinking about buying right now? Right? So you're helping them, and then in return, you're going to help yourself. Bonus ideas. In the past, a long time ago, I've done this where a client's closed, and I told them that I would host their housewarming party. So what I would do is I would bring drinks, and I would bring hors d'oeuvres, and I would brand everything so that all their friends that would come over, their 10, 20 friends, they would see me as the realtor. I'd be the one serving, and it's my opportunity to talk to them as well as connect with them, and for them to say, man, my realtor never gave us a housewarming party. They never did drinks for us and served us, right? So that's like another way to really step up your level of service. Obviously, it's not necessarily scalable, so when you're doing a certain amount of transactions, that will probably happen less, but what you could always do is say, hey, you're likely going to do a housewarming party. What I'd like to do is just sponsor drinks or something and just send over branded drinks, right? Bring dinner over. We like our clients. Not everyone likes their clients. So we like to hang out with them. And what we do is sometimes we'll say, hey, if you're free next week, we'd like to bring dinner by and hang out at your new house. It just really gives us an opportunity to solidify our relationship. Because you hear it all the time that, oh, after closing, I never heard from my agent again, right? So imagine a week later or 2 weeks later, you come by and you bring dinner, and it's another opportunity to just solidify like why they chose you and why you're the one that they're going to continue working with. We do client appreciation party for all clients. We've actually done one in this training room. We kept it low budget. We just had drinks and snacks and had people come in and connect, and we did raffles. That was when we were ramping up our social media and reviews, that we gave away I'll take that back. Our strategic partners sponsored our gifts that we gave away. So if you're newer in the business and you may not have the funds, talk to your strategic partners. Look for some sponsorships that say, hey, look, I'm planning on having this many people come. We're going to do a giveaway. What I'd like you to do is sponsor in some way, shape, or form. How can you help? This is an opportunity for you to do more business, right? So don't feel like you have to take on everything yourself. That's why we have our strategic partners, and that's why they earn our business. Pop buys. There was what was that, honey, 2 years ago? We did the cookies? Yeah, so 2 years ago, we actually popped by, I want to say about 50 homes, our past clients. And JC had made these awesome little cookies. And we just boxed each one, we put a sticker with our branding on it. And we just popped by people that we hadn't talked to in a while. And we just said, hey, we just wanted to stop by and drop off cookies and see how you're doing. We did get referrals from that, just because we were top of mind and we were in front of them and they were so grateful for the cookies. And then the next time they asked for recipes. They were like, yo, you're not going to bring the cookies by, can we get the recipes? So JC sent out the recipes as a touch one year too.
Nice.
So,
That's a twofer.
good way, yeah.
12 touches.
Smart.
All right, so let's go ahead and, any questions? That's pretty much what I got. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have a lovely buyer right now, and she sent me like 3 homes that are like over $30,000, like her budget. So 2 of them, I'm like, they're priced right, like let's just stick with our budget. And I explained to her the concerns of, even if you do put in an offer and the seller accepts, because the home has been on the market for like 6-7 months, it still probably isn't going to leave you a lot of room with negotiations, So today specifically, she sent me another home, and I talked with her through this again, and she said she still wants to see it. So can we like role play how this should go? Because I'm a D, and like I constantly find myself like having to like spill it out in a way she can like understand.
Yeah, can I ask you a few questions?
Yeah.
First off, is she pre-approved?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Does she know what her monthly payment is based on that qualification?
Yes.
Is this her max qualification?
Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
I've already asked.
So her max is 200?
No, it's
What, how much?
405.
405. How much is the house?
The one she sent today was 445.
445. So we're about 40,000 apart. Right. So that's about 10%.
And it's priced correctly.
Okay. Is it though?
What is that?
Is it though?
Well, according to the comps, it is.
Okay. How many days on market?
About 40.
40. So has it had any price reductions?
Yes.
Okay. When was the most recent one?
I've read several today, so I can't remember. Like, I think it was like November of last year.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you, it is overpriced.
Yeah.
It's been sitting too long. They've, and they did price reductions, so they're chasing the market. So I would say, first and foremost, I'd set the expectation. Help them, again, doing what you're doing, right? Hey, help me understand. You mentioned your goals is to stay at 405 since that is your max qualification, right?
But she thinks she can put in an offer and they're going to accept.
Sure. I'm gonna be honest with you. It is a waste of time, and at the same time, sometimes you just gotta let your buyers get burned once.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So I've done it before where I'm like, look, I want you to understand I'm on your side, because when you don't do that, that's often when the buyer feels like you're not on their side. Okay. So, and just say to them, look, I'm on your side. I'm here to get you to your goals, and my concern is we're focused on this house that isn't even in the realm of your pricing. And so we could be spending time on this one and missing out on one that actually makes sense, right? And so what I'd like to do is really get clarity around your goals. And so if we write this offer at 405 and you don't get the house, does that kind of give you more confidence that based on my advice on pricing, that I'm correct? Right. So I'm here to support you and help you through this. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and schedule an appointment to go see the home. We're going to write an offer on it. We're going to see how it works out. Because let's be honest, like if it's been on the market for that long and it hasn't had any price reductions in November, there is that possibility where they may consider it. Or they may just counter it, and maybe something astronomically whatever. But it's going to give your buyer the peace of mind that A, you represent them and you're working on their behalf, and B, hey, maybe you are right. You do know pricing better than me that they weren't going to accept it, right? But I have seen in situations where I've looked at a buyer and thought to myself, you're crazy to think that offer is going to work out. And it worked out. Yeah. Right? The difference is I don't allow myself to put that on them. Right? I give them the opportunity to understand the statistics and the possibility of it happening. And hey, if that's what you want to do, that's what we're here for.
Right. And I get that. I just didn't want it. I don't mind one-offs, but I just don't want it to be moving forward. She's sending me all of these overpriced homes, like thinking we're gonna hit a home run.
You don't want to set the standard.
This-
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I mean, when you're going over comps with her, how are you talking her through it? Are you meeting her in person? Because she might be the person that you got to sit down and you got to pull up FMLS and you got to say, hey, these are the houses in the area. Let's look at what they sold for, right? Oh, look at this statistic. Homes are getting 97% of list price.
Right.
97% of 440,000 is not 405.
That's a good point.
You know, and you can even, if she's a visual person, you know, you can put things in front of her. You can say like, hey, here's my cell phone. You know, you can put a cell phone in front of her and you can say, this cell phone, I'd love to have it for $1, but let's be honest, just because I want it for $1 doesn't mean it's going to sell for $1, right?
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I have
And
a
maybe with
question.
that property, because it's been sitting, and my idea of thinking that
Yeah.
the seller may do it because it's been sitting there
Yeah.
long too. There's something wrong with the property because if somebody wanted it, they would have gotten it. Maybe something's wrong with the property and they're not willing to do the work it takes to bring it up to par.
Right. Yeah.
But
And it's likely overpriced.
I wonder, could this be also the case that this buyer is not honest with the sources of finances, where they're coming from? Because let's say she gets that house with a price that she knows that her mom or dad or whoever is going to put $40,000 for like earnest money as a catch. I mean, could it be that she's not honest? Like she knows that she can get more money for somewhere else for closing or this or that?
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, you always, you know, that's why it goes back to understanding your buyer's financial state.
Yeah, because she wouldn't be saying that if she.
Yeah, and so to your point also, if you have a buyer that, let's say the home's been on the market for less than 30 days, you know, what I tell my clients is hey, you know, I certainly, you know, like your excitement to negotiate, and, you know, due to what's happening in the market, this is what we see statistically, so let's wait 30 days on that one. If it's still there, if we're still surprisingly looking, then we can come back to it. But because it's fresh to the market, you know, the seller's confidence is going to be really high. They're going to think they're going to get list price, and, you know, what I'd like to do is ensure that we're using the best use of your time and only looking at homes that make sense and that are actually going to get you to your goals.
Right. Thank you.
I have a question about
Yeah.
getting a first-time home buyer to pull a trigger, and because I had this happen where one time I showed a buyer a home and hit every checkbox she requested and required in bonuses, but she still wouldn't pull the trigger on the home. She was still really nervous about it. 4 months later, she came back to the same home that I showed her and said, okay, I want it. How could I shorten that window of discovery, basically?
Yeah. So it really goes back to gaining clarity around their goals. How important is it for them to get a home? And then the next thing is really educating them on the variables. So I'll give you an example. You can be the buyer, all right?
Okay.
So Nina, I just showed you this home, and you know it meets a lot of your needs and wants, and it's the best one that we've seen. Are you ready to write an offer?
You know, I really do love the home. It definitely has the ceiling fans, the fireplace, the 3 bedrooms, the large walk-in, but you know, I just feel like I want to see something else. You know, I feel like I don't know, you know, if I should, you know, pull the trigger.
Right, and I can appreciate that. And Nina, I'm curious to know, you know, what would happen if tomorrow the interest rates were to go up and you couldn't even afford the house anymore?
You know, but you know what, my financing, like I do have some wiggle room. Like I'm actually shopping a little bit below what my max budget is. So I think I might be okay.
So is netting, you know, saving money really important to you?
You know, I want to make sure I get the best deal possible. So I feel like I just need to see more things.
Right, so the best deal, you know, and so were you aware that if the interest rate goes up by 0.25% tomorrow, that it could cost you about $10,000 more on average?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. What would that look like for you if you ended up paying $10,000, maybe $20,000 more in the future?
That would hurt.
Yeah, and you know what also is interesting is if it does go up, your qualification actually goes down, so it costs you more to buy less house. So, you know, you're seeing this house today, and if the interest rates go up tomorrow, what you would find at a comparable monthly payment would actually be worse than this house.
Right.
You know, your goal is to get into something that meets most of your needs and wants and also within your budget, right?
Right.
Great, so let's do this. Let's write an offer on this house to ensure that we're getting you to your goals. Does that help?
Yes, I think because I had this exact thing happened with me, and I think for her, she was just, it was a new construction, so she was nervous about it, and so
Yeah.
she actually spent $10,000 more on the house that she looked at
Yeah,
because
I'm
she
sure.
waited 4 months. So
I'm
actually,
sure.
I use this story with every buyer because I have a new buyer right now where they wanted a specific floor plan. They wanted this floor plan has everything that they want.
Yeah.
The only thing that they say held them back from pulling the trigger when they first saw it was the lot.
Sure.
Because there was some type of eyesore there.
Right.
And so, yeah.
So with that, one thing we do have to keep in mind is in this market that we know is shifting, you have to really keep an eye on the market to be able to forecast for your clients. Because it is heading to that point where if buyers wait longer, they might find something better. And so you need to have that ability to have the clarity for them and understand what potentially is happening in the market that would affect them. Because it's one or the other, right? Because it is, hey, you might find a better house in 2-3 months, but if the interest rate goes up, what does it cost you? Did you actually get a better house for the price, right? So you have to be able to tie all those things in to truly serve your clients. You need to understand interest rates, financing. You need to understand what's happening in the market and how is it changing for them.
Right.
To be able to give them that advice.
'Cause I've
And
been
when
having-
you have that conviction and you have that information, it's going to give your buyer confidence to be able to make that decision.
Yeah, so touching more on the painful points will help me get them. Because I have a buyer right now they have to spend $20,000 or $30,000 more on the same floor plan they just looked at.
Right.
And they said, this doesn't make sense. Why is it so high? I said, because those buyers pulled the trigger so they got to save the money.
Right. Yeah. I tell people that all the time for new construction. I say, the first houses that they're building are likely going to be the cheapest. And as the builder builds more and starts selling out, it's easier for him to get confidence from buyers because the first buyers are the ones that are taking the risk. And the more homes that sell in this neighborhood, the less risk there is for the next buyer. Therefore, they're going to continue rising the premiums.
And then I used to say the plus side is that they had first phase, second phase to make all their mistakes. So by the time you're buying a product you're buying a premium product, though you're spending a little bit more, but they've already fixed some of the corrections.
Pros and cons. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest thing is like truly setting expectations. Having the systems around your business and being able to work it through with buyers. Because JC will tell you, I'm not attached to the deal or the outcome. I was in the past, and it is
It's
not.
hard not to be.
It did not work out for me. I used to, so new in the business, right? I'm fresh out of college and just money on my mind. And every time I get a client, I'm adding up. Okay, this is what I'm gonna buy next, right? And every single time I get them under contract, the deal would fall apart. I'm like, what is going on? Why is this happening to me? And then I took Bold for the first time, and it just really changed my perspective. I really focused on service and putting them first, getting everyone what they want. Ultimately, I get what I want. And that's really helped me build my business because not being attached to the deal has created referrals, created the commitment from clients because they trust me, because they know I'm not attached to it. I mean, even now, sometimes I'll tell them, I'll be like, hey, we did over 30 deals last year, and so to be honest, whether you buy or not, I'm okay, right? My goal is to get you to your goal. If your goal is to buy a home or your goal is to sell your house, that's what we're here for. We're not attached to the deal because there are plenty of agents out there that are attached to the deal, and I promise you're going to get a different level of service from them.
How about dealing with ridiculous, unrealistic millennials who think if you don't respond within a very short period of time with 10 comps that they want to see, they're going to drop you?
It goes back to your ability to communicate expectations with them. Because you're teaching them how to treat you. And that's why I tell people on the front end, if you call me after 6 p.m., don't be offended. I'm not responding. Right? I'll follow up with you within 24 hours. Unless we're actively negotiating. And trust me, I mean, I'm technically categorized as millennial, and most of my friends are millennials, and I seem to do just fine with them as far as ensuring that they don't feel offended that I don't answer. Oftentimes, my friends will text me and be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I'm texting you so late. Yeah. I'm not gonna respond. I'll respond to you the next day. Hey, it's okay.
Well, I set the expectation. I said, okay, I'll shoot you some comms this evening.
Yeah.
Well, he like was offended within an hour, and I was like, it takes time to put 13 comms together.
No.
You know, so it's like I feel like because some millionaires are living on a computer and they have that
Right.
very fast response time
Sure.
that they expect that everyone else in this kind of line of work is going to do the same. So I try to expect the same.
But so again, it goes back to your expectation, because if you just say, I'm gonna send it to you this evening, you're thinking it's a lot. You need to put an actual time on it. You need to say, hey, you're going to have a response from me by 8 p.m. If it's after 8 p.m., you can be offended, right? But if you just say, hey, I'm gonna have it to you this evening, you're really leaving it open
Well, it was actually.
for him to sit and wait for you because he doesn't know what time, right? So I always buffer. I mean, I tell my clients a later time than what I'm actually going to. And the reason for that is because if you get to them sooner,
Then they're like, oh.
they feel better about it, right?
Well,
yeah.
I mean, under promise.
Under promise, over deliver.
But then you said you asked them to give referrals to all of the social medias, and you said Yelp, Zillow, Google, and Facebook. What
Yeah,
else?
so Yelp, Zillow, Google, and then Facebook are the 4 platforms that we use.
And what? I didn't know you could. Google.
Yeah, Google reviews does its own. Yeah. Does anyone else have questions?
I do.
Okay, what's going on?
What's up, man? Where did you get that script that you used with
Based on that. So for me, what I've done in the past is I've opened bankrate.com. I've punched in numbers and then changed the interest rate to see how much does it actually cost them over the life of the loan,
Right.
what does it cost them from a monthly payment, and then I'm able to take that data and share it with our clients. So one of the slides in our consultation has on there the 2 scenarios on if the interest rate goes up by 1%. If you stayed at the same price, what does it cost you every month? If you didn't stay at the same price, where does your qualification go to keep that same thing?
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, just online, you can just look up mortgage calculator and be able to do that. Yeah.
Oh, under lender, yeah.
Or ask your lender if you don't work with the lender. What's up?
Not really a question, just a comment. I think that's important, how you were saying, like, get your client to write a letter, and even like you representing you by contacting the selling agent. That's important, because I just told her I just closed the listing. I was a listing agent last week, and it was only on the market for like 3 days, but it had like 11 offers, maybe more. I just
Where
it
was
didn't even
that?
happen.
Where was that?
In Marietta. But when you start getting that many offers, I mean, you're just a number unless you call.
That's right.
And that was part of the deciding factor. Like one of the agents, she would I could tell, all right, she's gonna be super easy to work with. I know this deal is gonna work. I could tell how we're talking. And it was still a great offer. Numbers wise, they were 1 or 2 better, but it was just an email. Didn't hear anything, and we ended up choosing her. So I think that's important. Just have
agent relationship.
I can tell you, I have experience. We did that trying to rent a home in Michigan because there was no inventory. The house went on the market. We saw it, like, literally went on the market at 9 a.m. We saw it at 1. And she said it already has 5 offers. So she was like, what can y'all do? So we wrote a letter and sent a picture. And we're like, look at our cute dog, And that's why, she said that's why they went with us.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, can I see the picture of the app thing that you have?
Yeah.